Hi, good morning. Under GST, today we are going to discuss accounts, records and e-waybill. That means what are the accounts are maintained and what types of accounts are to be maintained and where the accounts are to be maintained, how long period the accounts are to be maintained by the registered persons. All this concept we are going to discuss in this chapter. And the one more important point is the provisions of accounts, records and e-waybill that are made applicable for CGST. The same provisions are applicable for SGST as per section 20 of the IGST Act. That means what are the provisions relating to accounts, records, e-waybill under CGST Act have also made applicable to IGST Act by section 20 of the IGST Act. Then the concept one by one we can study. The first one, who is required to maintain accounts, books of accounts and what place? At what place the books of account are maintained and who is responsible to maintain such books of account? That means every registered person, once he is registered under GST, such every registered person shall keep and maintain books of accounts at his principal place of business. Suppose he is mentioned in the certificate of registration, my principal place of business in Mumbai, he has to maintain such books of account at Mumbai only. Suppose in his registration certificate, in addition to his principal place of business, he has also given his additional place of business. For example, in Mumbai, he has mentioned in registration certificate as a principal place of business is Bombay, and one additional place of business also he has mentioned in the registration certificate as Pune. The books of accounts relating to Pune has to keep and maintain at Pune place only. That means books of accounts relating to principal place of business has to keep and maintain at principal place of business, and books of accounts relating to additional place of business has to keep and maintain at additional place of business. Understand? And second one, where such person has more than one business in this certificate, where the registered person has more than one place of business in certificate of registration, then he has to maintain the books of account relating to such place and keep and maintain such books at that place only. Understand? I can repeat. Where he has more than one place of business, he has mentioned in the registration certificate, he has to keep and maintain books of account relating to such place in that place only. Understand? And one more point, and if a registered person have a place of business in Bombay and he has mentioned in the certificate of registration is Bombay, so he has to keep and maintain such books of accounts in Bombay only. Unfortunately, the books of accounts has been found by the officer at Hyderabad. In such a case, it is presumed that the books has to be maintained by the registered person only. I can repeat again. If he has a place of business in Bombay, he has to maintain books of accounts in Bombay. And unfortunately, the proper officer finds any books of accounts relating to such person as founded at Hyderabad, it is presumed that books of accounts has to be maintained by such person only. Understand? Then I can read the concept. Every registered person shall keep and maintain his books of accounts at his principal place of business and books of account relating to additional place of business. PPOB means principal place of business. APOB means additional place of business. Where more than one place of business is specified in the certificate of registration, the accounts relating to each place of business shall be kept at such places only, such places of business only. That we have discussed already. Next. In terms of the above provision, the books of accounts relating to each and every place of business are required to be maintained in that place only. Where the business is there, he has to maintain books at that place only. However, in case where the goods are supplied through an auction like tea, rubber, coffee, the difficulties were being faced by the principal auctioneer in maintaining the books of accounts at every additional place of business. I can explain again. In case of auction like tea, rubber, coffee, the books of accounts maintained by the principal and auctioneer is difficult because the tea, rubber, coffee, all these products are kept at warehouse. So it is not possible to maintain books at warehouse. So in such a case, the registered person clearly informed to the jurisdictional officer the warehouse is as his additional place of business. In case of auctions like law, coffee, rubber, tea, where the principal and buyer also is not able to maintain the books of accounts, then in such a case he has to maintain books of account and warehouse, because warehouse is not belongs to him. In such a case, these persons shall inform to the jurisdictional officer the warehouse shall be treated as his additional place of business. Once the buyer is purchased the goods from the warehouse and he want to store the same goods at such warehouse only, the buyer also mentioned to the jurisdictional officer the warehouse as his additional place of business. I can read easily. I can read then for your better understanding. Consequently, it has been clarified that in such cases, the principal and the auctioneer may declare the warehouses where such goods are stored as their APOB. That such where the goods are stored shall be declared as their additional place of business. The buyer is also required to disclose such warehouses as his principal additional place of business if he wants to store the goods purchased through auction in such a warehouse. That means he has purchased through auction and stored in the same warehouse. In such a case, the buyer also informed to the jurisdictional officer about the maintenance of books at his about the warehouse at his additional place of business. Then, for the purpose of supply of tea through a private treaty, the principal and auctioneer may also comply with the said provisions. The provisions are same. Next, further the principal and the auctioneer may maintain the books of accounts relating to APOB and their PPOB instead of APOB. Such principal or auctioneer shall intimate to the jurisdictional officer. This means he has to inform to the jurisdictional officer in writing about the maintenance of books relating to APOB and PPOB that we have already discussed. Then, unless provided otherwise, if any documents, register or any other books of accounts belonging to a registered person are found at any premises other than those mentioned in the certificate of registration, they shall be presumed to be maintained by the said person. That I already discussed. If the registered person has a place of business in Bombay, he has to keep and maintain books of accounts in Bombay only. If any officer found books of accounts and records relating to such person at place other than the registered person, it is presumed that the books of accounts shall be maintained by such a registered person only. Understand? Okay. We are going to next concept. Accounts records are required. What accounts and records are to be maintained? Till now, the person who is required to maintain, what type of, who is the person required to maintain accounts? Now we are discussing accounts and records are required to be known. Then what type of accounts are maintained? In case of manufacturing of goods, a true and correct accounting of the following to be maintained. Production or manufacture of goods. Who is maintaining the production? In case of manufacturing company, or pharmaceutical company, process company, he has to maintain the manufacture or production of goods, and inward and outward supply of goods or services provided or received. Then third one, stock of goods. Then fourth one, input tax credit and availed, and output tax paid and payable, such other particulars as may be prescribed. This much details only maintained. Not much details required under GST, only this much details for accounts purpose. For accounts purpose, what details? Production or manufacture of goods, and inward and outward supply of goods or services provided or received. Then third one, stock of goods. Then fourth one, input tax credit received and availed, and output tax payable and paid, such as that particulars as may be prescribed. All these are relating to accounts. And records, till now we have discussed about accounts, and what records are to be maintained we are discussing. Records prescribed by the rules. What are the records are mentioned? But the first I can read and I can discuss. The goods or services imported or exported. Supply attracting payment of tax and reverse charge along with relevant document including invoice, bill of supply, delivery challan, credit notes and debit notes, receipt voucher, payment voucher, refund voucher, and separate account of advance received and paid, adjustment made thereto. Names and complete address from whom he has received the goods or services chargeable to tax under the Act. Name and complete address of the person to whom he has supplied provide the goods or services where required under the provisions of the act. Next, particulars of the complete address of the premises where the goods are stored by him, including the goods are stored during transit, along with the particulars of stock stored therein. That means very simple records. What are the records? The goods imported or exported, the services imported or exported, then supply attracting reverse charge along with relevant document. What are the relevant document? It may be invoice, it may be bill of supply, it may be that is what delivery challan, it may be refund voucher, receipt voucher, advances received, advance paid. All these details we have to maintain, and particulars and complete address of the suppliers from whom the services goods are received, that is purchased, and service complete address of the supplier to whom the goods are delivered, to whom the services are rendered, and particulars and details of complete address of the premises where the goods are stored, including the goods are stored during the transit, along the particular of the stock in hand. Very small particular thing. Previously records we had discussed. Now we had discussing records. The goods or services imported or exported, supply attracting reverse charge along with document like invoice, bill of supply, delivery challan, receipt voucher, refund voucher, debit note, credit note, advance received, advance paid, advance adjusted, and complete address of the supplier from whom the goods are purchased, from whom the services are rendered, complete address of the supplier to whom the supply is made, that may be goods or that may be services, and stock of goods, including the goods which are in transit. All these details we have to mention. This is the records. Previously we have discussed the accounts. This much only. Only what are the sometimes they are asking what type of accounts are maintained under GST Act. That question may be asked, and otherwise the question may be asked what types of records may be asked. This question also may be asked in exams. Okay. Next, failure to maintain accounts. That means if a registered person is liable to maintain accounts, but he has not maintained such accounts, in such a case, the proper officer shall determine the tax payable on such goods or services and issue a show cause notice under section 73 or 72 for determination of tax. That means if any person liable to furnish books of accounts, but he has not maintained the books of account, in such a case the proper officer shall determine the tax on such on the goods or services or both that are not accounted. That means it is as he is thinking that goods or service has been supplied by such person, because if he is not maintain the books of accounts of such goods, the proper officer has found and determined tax, and he is thinking that goods or service has been supplied by such registered person, and he is issued show cause notice under section 73 or 74 for determination of tax. I can read now. Failure to maintain the accounts. Where the registered person failed to account for the goods and services or both in accordance with the provisions of the section 35(1), the proper officer shall determine the amount of tax payable on the goods or services or both that are not accounted for, as if such goods or service or both has been supplied by such person, and the provisions of section 73 or 74 as the case may be shall mutandis mutandis apply for determination of tax. That means if he is failed to maintain books of accounts, the proper officer shall determine the tax payable on such supply on the goods or services as he is thinking that goods or service supplied by him. Understand? Next, period of retention of accounts. That means how long the registered person has to maintain such accounts. How long the registered person shall maintain the books of accounts. Every registered person, understand, every registered person shall keep and maintain books of accounts and other records at least 72 months from the due date of filing of annual return. Suppose 2017-18, the due date of filing of annual return is 2018 December. From 2018 December, he has to keep and maintain 72 months. From 2018, he has to keep and maintain books of accounts relating to such a company for 72 months from 31st December 2018. Understand? Then I can read. Every registered person required to keep and maintain books of accounts and other records in accordance with the provisions of section 35(1) shall retain and until the expiry of 72 months from the due date of furnishing of annual return for the year pertain to such accounts and records. Understand? Second para I can read and later I can discuss. However, a registered person who is a party to an appeal or revision or any other proceeding before any appellate authority, revisional authority, appellate tribunal or court, whether filed by him or by the commissioner or is under investigation for any offence under chapter 19, shall retain the books of accounts or other records pertain to the subject matter of such appeal, revision, proceedings or investigation for a period of 1 year after the final disposal of such appeal or revision or proceedings or investigation or for the period specified above, whichever is earlier. That means if already appeal is going on, if already revision order is going on, if any proceedings is going on under the court, in such a case the books and accounts shall maintain at least 1 year from the date of disposal of such order or period already we have discussed, whichever is earlier. I can repeat again. However, the registered person is a party to the appeal or revisional authority or a appellate authority or revisional authority or appellate tribunal or any court is where the registered person is a party. In such case, the books of account shall be maintained at least 1 year from the date of disposal of order by such a revisional authority, appellate authority, appellate tribunal or court. Or previously we have discussed 72 months, whichever is later. Actually, books of account has to maintain 72 months from the due date of filing of annual return. If he is a party to appeal or revisional authority or any proceedings or court, he has to maintain books of account at least 1 year from the date of disposal of order by these authorities or 72 months, whichever is later. Understand? Okay. Next. This ends the accounts records. Now we are going to discuss the e-waybill. Till now, what we have discussed, what type of accounts are maintained, what type of records are maintained, and failure to return maintain the books of accounts and period of returns of accounts. This much is enough for accounts and records. For exam purpose, they are not asking more than these points. Okay. Next, e-waybill. E-waybill is very important chapter, not only from exam point of view, from practical point of view also it is very important. That what is e-waybill? When he is required to e-waybill? Suppose when I transfer, first I can give some example. Suppose I am transferring my goods from one place. Suppose I am a chain manufacturing company. I am transferring my goods from Hyderabad to Chennai. In such a case, what documents has to carry by the transporter? So in such a case, he has to carry the invoice and he has to carry the e-waybill. E-waybill contains how much goods we have transported. That means what is the description of the goods, what are the value of the goods, what is the rates of the goods we are transporting, in which vehicle we are transporting, who is the recipient and who is the supplier, and what is the GSTN number of the supplier, what is the GST number of the recipient. All these details you have to enter in e-waybill. It is an authorized document to send goods from one place to another place. Understand? Then I can read first concept. I can discuss the same. When e-waybill is required to be generated, whenever there is a movement of goods of consignment value exceeding 50,000 in relation to supply for reasons other than supply, due to inward supply from an unregistered person, the registered person who causes such movement of goods shall furnish the information relating to the said goods as specified in Part A of Form GST EWB 01 before commencement of such movement. Okay. First, when the e-waybill is required, the value of goods exceeds 50,000 is e-waybill is required. If my value of goods is less than 50,000, I am not liable to issue e-waybill. I am not liable to generate e-waybill. Why? Because the value of goods is less than 50,000. And in relation to supply, 3 points. in relation to supply, I am selling chairs. The value exceeds 60,000. That means I am selling the goods to some person. In such a case, I have to issue e-way bill. If second one, for reasons other than supply. That means for reasons other than supply means I am sending my chairs towards repair work. This is not a supply. Even though I have to issue e-way bill. And for exhibition purpose, in a furniture exhibition, I send my goods to exhibit my chairs. In such a situation, there is no supply. In such cases also, you have to issue e-way bill. That means in relation to supply, you can issue it. In relation other than supply, example repairs or exhibition purpose, in such a purpose also, you have to issue e-way bill. Due to inward supply from an unregistered person, I have purchased the chairs from an unregistered person. That means I am a registered person, but I am receiving such chairs from an unregistered person. In such a case, I am the person already registered. Therefore, I have to issue e-way bill. I have to issue e-way bill. What is the e-way bill? E-way bill is in two parts, part A and part B. These two parts we are going to discuss. Okay, next. Who causes the movement of goods? Who causes means suppose supplier or go to recipient place and supplier is recipient go to supplier place and recipient is arranged transport. Understand? Recipient go to supplier place and recipient takes the goods and arrange transport here. In such a case, who is caused the movement of goods? The movement is caused by the recipient. And second case, supplier is sending the goods to recipient place. In such a case, supplier is arranging the transport. Supplier sending the goods as per the contract. Supplier sending the goods to recipient place. In such a case, supplier is arranging the transport. Once the supplier is arranging the transport, the movement is caused by the supplier. That means sometimes movement is caused by the supplier, sometimes movement is caused by the recipient. That means who is causing the movement of goods, he will issue the e-way bill. The person who is causing the movement of goods, such person shall issue the e-way bill. If such person is unregistered, the registered person shall issue the e-way bill. Understand? Next. Special situation where the e-way bill needs to be issued even if the value of consignment is less than 50,000. Till now we have discussed e-way bill is required to be generated if the value of goods exceeds 50,000. Here we are going to discuss if the value of goods is less than 50,000 also, you are need to issue e-way bill. What are the special situations? Interstate transfer of goods by the principal to job worker. Yes. Where goods are transferred by one job principal to another job worker. Example, principal is located in Bombay and job work is located in Bangalore. That means the Bombay unit is transferring goods to the Bangalore unit. In such a case, it is only principal is sending to job work for some process and the goods are returned back. Understand? That means principal is sending the goods to job work for reprocessing of some goods and the goods are coming back to the principal. In such a case, it is not a supply. It is a reasons other than supply. But the value is also less than 50,000. If the value is less than 50,000 and it is interstate transfer of goods by the principal to the job worker, then the job worker or the principal shall be liable to generate e-way bill. I can repeat again. First I can read and I can explain again. Where the goods sent by the principal located in one state or union territory to a job worker located in any other state or union territory, the e-way bill shall be generated either by the principal or the job worker if registered, irrespective of the value of the consignment. That means if the value of goods is less than 50,000 also, if the goods are sent by the principal to job worker from one state to another state, then the e-way bill shall be generated by the principal or the job worker if he is registered. Okay. Just a minute please.